Hey everyone, my goal today is to hit the 50,000 words for NaNoWriMo. I'm at 47,552, so just a little less than 2,500, and I've reached my goal for the month. I am 99% sure the novel will not be finished in 2,500 words, so I will need to revisit it, but I'm going to set it aside after I reach the 50,000 word goal, come back to it, rework some of the chapters, and fill out some of the scenes that may have left some details out and that sort of thing. So my goal today is simply to get that down. Not really feeling myself today. I had a sleep study last night and have just kind of felt rough ever since. Um, so maybe a little slower going today, but we'll get it done. So Rise Again, a sci-fi novel by Jay Wilburn, is what we're working on. We will pick up here at the 27th chapter. I'm not sure how much or how long it hurt to travel between worlds this time because I woke up in the dusty parking lot looking up into clear blue sky. I'd been conscious every other time we had passed through one of Trey's portals. I didn't wake up hurting, but I was tingling and numb all over. I think I might have wet my pants at some point when I was out. Let's say out cold. I sat up slowly through waves of dizziness. A layer of dirt stuck to most of the lot. Spreading to long deserted department stores and vacated shops. In shape and configuration, they looked very much like where we just left. A hot wind picked up a top layer of sand and blasted the barren storefronts. Immediately in front of me was the severed front half of a police cruiser. Next to that was an engine block leaking oil with a bumper and a car grill in the growing puddle. I spied Trey sitting against the wall of a restaurant with all the glass missing from the windows. It looked a lot like the chicken place, except this building had been empty for years. I pointed over my shoulder at the half a police car and the leaking engine. I coughed twice before I could get out the words. Did we bring those with us, or were they already here? Trey just stared at the dusty ground between his feet as he struggled for breath. I took hold of his shoulders and leaned him against the bricks behind him. One eye had a bloody splotch across the white from busted vessels. I thought maybe that pupil looked blown out, but I couldn't tell. Oh, Jesus, Trey. Are you dying? He didn't answer. His breath came raspy and dry. He still breathed though, and he mostly sat up on his own. So whatever the malfunction in those strange circuits. So whatever the malfunction, those strange circuits inside him had been, it hadn't killed him yet. It may have fried his brain, though. A string of drool escaped the corner of his mouth and caught his sleeve on the way down. Hold on. I forgot they were in handcuffs before they ended up here. Okay. I gotta fix that. Okay. Sitting against... Alright, I tried to point over my shoulder. Shoot. Tried to point over my shoulder at the half police car and leaking engine. Then remembered my hands were cuffed behind my back still. I coughed twice before I could get out the words. Did we bring this with us? Trey just sat on the dusty ground, staring between his feet as he struggled for breath, with his own hands cuffed behind him. Alright, this is where we need to fix things. Okay. Alright, with his own hands cuffed behind him. Would have been nice for the cops to throw a key through the portal before we left. I rolled to my side and pulled my knees up to my chest. I tried 3 times to step to loop my hands under my feet and failed. On the 4th attempt, I thought I got stuck. My shoulders pulled at the joints, and I started to hyperventilate. Let's see if we can spell that correctly while we're here. We can, with the help of our trusty computer. Alright. My shoulders pulled at the joints and I started to hyperventilate. Then my feet popped the rest of the way over the chain I stayed on my side as a deep cramp scraped through my shoulders, and I stayed on my side as a deep cramp scraped through my shoulders, and then sat on my chest for a few beats. Finally, I got up on my knees and crawled to Trey. I took hold of his shoulders and leaned him against the bricks. One eye, so forth. Okay, everything else should work. He didn't answer. His breath came raspy. Hadn't killed him yet. It might have fried his brain, though. A string of drool escaped the corner of his mouth and caught his sleeve on the way down. I needed to find... Okay, hold on. I needed to find something to cut our cuffs. I need to find something to cut our cuffs before the cops from this world found us and wanted to know why we were like this. I looked out across the barren lot and roadway. It didn't look promising that we would find anyone, but you can't judge a world by one parking lot. I stood up and almost yelled out, "Hello." I restrained myself, though. Maybe it was fear, but I was probably most afraid of just looking stupid. I leaned down within a few inches of Trey's slack face and that one bloody eye that hinted at doom. Trey, can you hear me at all? No answer. No reaction. "Hello," I yelled in his face. His eyes rolled a little, but didn't come back to focus. He took a deep breath and let out a sigh that could well have been frustration with me in any other circumstance. All right. Moving right along. I stood up straight, stared at him a little longer, and then walked out away from him and the abandoned building. Trey, I need to go try to find something to I stopped talking and walking at that point. I turned back toward him. If this world was indeed configured, like the one we just left, minus the people plus the desolation, then I was standing roughly where I had been when Trey lit up. Lit up like a flare. He now sat against the wall, and his face tilted at the sky. I had run toward him instead of away. I was concerned about him, of course, but some part of my subconscious had decided to tie my fate with his. If he was jumping, I jumped too. If he was snuffing out in a burst of transdimensional I think that's a compound word. I'm going to make it that way even if it's not. If he was snuffing out in a burst of transdimensional meltdown, I was melting down with him. tried not to think about what I had finally discovered about him. It wasn't the most pressing concern in this world. With the front half of the police car that we had pulled into a new world with us, I could see the dashboard through the open end. The radio hung dead and dark. The barrel of a shotgun locked into a slot, but the rest of the weapon was sheared off and missing. The steering column came with us, but the bottom half of the steering wheel had angled out too far and apparently was left with the back half of the cruiser in the previous world. Fascinating stuff, but I forced my attention away because that wasn't important either. Except that it hadn't happened before. We never pulled half my TV recliner or a section of carpet when we left my world. We'd taken ourselves and everything we had on us, but the waves from opening a portal wasn't ripping away landscape before the last two worlds. All right. Might mean more power or less control. It hurt the last, let me make this a new one. Alright, new paragraph. It hurt the last 2 times. It hurt the last 2 times. It knocked me out this time and may have scrambled Trey's brain from the inside out with his too early recharge and his unprompted power surge. Is power surge a compound word? Nope, didn't think so. Alright. Moving right along. Brain from inside out. Power surge. Alright. I found myself fixating on the memory of a piece of chain link under a tire. Let's do some commas here because I'm doing a lot of threads here. Chain link under a tire, throwing sparks from the highway. We appeared in the middle of last night. Somebody laughed really loud in the house and it scared me. Alright, throwing sparks from the highway we appeared in the middle of last night. I shook my head but didn't succeed in clearing it much. I walked back to stand over Trey. Don't want to get stranded here. If you have another power surge while I'm out looking for bolt cutters. I would think that was a compound word. I'll make it 2 just for now. Looking for bolt cutters or a saw or whatever I think I'm looking for. I kind of don't want to see what the next out of control jump looks like or feels like. Can you keep it under control long enough for me to improve our situation slightly? Trey's eyes drifted half closed and then opened. One of the eyes seemed to be looking at me, maybe. Can you stand? Can you walk? I'll try to carry you or drag you if I have to, but I don't want to. I'm not leaving you helpless, and I'm not letting you slip off without me either. I took hold of one shoulder. With my cuffed hands and pulled him. He didn't really budge, and he wasn't helping. I took a deep breath and considered the least worst options for dragging his uncooperative form for who knew how long. Then there were signs of life. His feet shuffled under him. He leaned his weight forward and stuck his tongue out of one side of his mouth, like the operation took a great deal of concentration. I'm not sure what concentration is, but it's worth finding out. Concentration. Alright. My mom told me I used to do that when I worked math problems as a kid. A surprising level of grief racked through my body. I wasn't done mourning my mother, but now wasn't ideal either. I squared my feet and pulled his shoulder again. This time, Trey did most of the work as he rose to standing with his hands still bound behind his back. Are you with me now, Trey? His head tilted toward me by a degree. Trey? Trey, say something, buddy. His head lilted the other way, and he swayed on his head lilted the other way, and he swayed on his feet. I held onto him, but he seemed to be balancing himself pretty well for a guy who was non-responsive. Okay, we'll do it your way for a while, Trey. We need to walk because we need to get these cuffs off. We need food eventually, water too, shelter, and to figure out where the hell we are now. Once we finish all that, we ought to get an idea of how and why you are malfunctioning. Learning to talk again would go a long way to meeting all these goals. You with me? Wavering silence, but still on his feet. Need you to walk. I'll help you, but you got to walk, Trey. Will you walk with me? Another deep breath and frustrated sigh was as close as I could get to a yes. So I pulled him forward he took a step. I steadied him as we left the restaurant sidewalk and crossed the dusty parking lot. He put one foot in front of the other, which was all we could really do at that moment. Scrambled brains or not. All right. At the far corner, the gas station was empty. The canopy had collapsed onto the dead husks of pumps on one side. Beyond that, the intersection was empty, was unoccupied. That lonely condition extended as far as I could see down all four ways. Some vegetation remained, but it was wild and scant. It looked like the town was experiencing a drought along with its loss of population. The street signals were hung dark on three sides, say above three sides. Above three sides, and had collapsed on the fourth side across from us. As we stepped over the lifeless cables, I was amazed at how big those red lights were once you got up close to them on the ground. I steered Trey into one of the grocery stores. The sliding doors were gone. Trash and debris had drifted in along with the hard remains of a mudslide on one side. Registers stood silent, missing their cash drawers. Alright. Most of the shelves still stood in neat rows, but not a can or rotten vegetable remained. A small folded piece of newspaper sat at the end of one grocery conveyor. I dared to let Trey stand alone for a moment as I walked over to pick the paper up. It was as stiff as a section of cardboard. Having gotten wet and dried over and over. It was just a coupon flyer. It was just a coupon flyer. Only the center bit. Alright, maybe I make this one paragraph because that makes sense. It's all the same stuff. Alright. Only the center bit was still partially legible. Buy one, get one free on the store brands of toilet paper and paper towels. Okay. I dropped the stiff piece of pulp on the metal trough for bagging groceries. No plastic bags remained either. My level of disappointment really surprised me. I realized that I had expected the paper to be a broad headline declaring what disaster had struck. Thank you, sir. Thank you. My level of disappointment really surprised me. I realized that I had expected the paper to be a broad headline declaring what disaster had struck this world. I guess I watched too many movies where newspapers just blew by in the opening wins with all the exposition the audience needed. Thank you, Amzolt. I appreciate your encouragement. Today's a day I could definitely use it. I'm feeling a little fuzzy today from sleep studies and stuff, so I appreciate the support. I guess I watched too many movies where newspapers just blew by in the opening wins with all the exposition the audience needed. Would be cool if that's how it worked when you really jumped between worlds. Okay, here we go. I led Trey out again. Found a hardware store and tried not to get my hopes up as I forced the doors open. Wooden pallets scraped the floor. Wooden pallets scraped the floor as I pushed them out of the way with the door. These shelves were nearly as abandoned as the grocer was. I did find one screwdriver. Is that compound? Yes, it is. I did find one screwdriver. It was a Phillips head, though. Not sure I spelled that right, but I'll check it later. Alright, I did find one screwdriver. It was a Phillips head, though. I still tried it on the cuff on the lock of one of my cuff bracelets and quickly saw it would be no good. I did stuff it into my pocket before I led Trey on from there. Down the center of the empty streets in this abandoned town, in this barren world, I still expected a car to come barreling at us before we could get out of the way. After enough quiet miles, I was kind of hoping for it. About mid-afternoon, I turned Trey. I think mid-afternoon is one word. It is. About mid-afternoon, I turned Trey up a neighborhood street. It was a bit of a change in tactics, but it would be dark eventually, and we really were going nowhere and doing it slowly at that. Some of the houses were leveled to their foundation. A few still showed debris from the structure, while others were just concrete slab with overgrown grass, weeds, trees, and bushes around. The grass showed dry, but the growth here looked a little more vital than the ruins of the business section, business and retail sections of town. Few houses still stood, and the ones with good doors on them were somewhat intact inside. furniture, and even clothes in some dresser drawers remained. Refrigerators were dead and cleared, and pantries largely barren. I'm using the word barren too much, but I'll need to fix that in editing, I think. Alright. I did find some water bottles and a couple cans. No tools that might break cuffs, so there was still that. No can opener. The labels had long since rotted off, which probably meant the food was spoiled. We'd eaten heavy that morning, and though I was quite hungry, I figured I could hold out until morning, or at least until we found a can opener. I sat Trey down on a sofa and helped him drink water from one of our new bottles. The plastic felt very flimsy, like the bottles had already been opened. A lot of water spilled down the front of his shirt. He choked twice, but then I got him to take sips. After a while, I drank most of another bottle myself. After a while, I drank most of another bottle myself. It tasted like chemicals. Maybe like the plastic was breaking down into the water itself. pretty sure I should have boiled it, but I was feeling overwhelmed. This was the best I could do in that moment. All right. What now, guys? Okay. I said we're going to need to get creative with these cuffs. With these cuffs, Trey. It may be a funny story about how we spent a couple days in a wasteland world in handcuffs, but it'll be a lot less funny if we run into a pack of hungry wild dogs or hungry wild humans. Trey gave me a few slow blinks, and then his eyes drifted up the wall. I turned my head to see I turned my head to see what he was looking at, but it was nothing. One of my ex-girlfriends had a cat who did that. Is ex-girlfriend's one word? No. Maybe dash? I don't think so, but I'll do it anyway. One of my ex-girlfriends had a cat who used to do that all the time. We joked about it seeing spirits. That seemed less funny in this world. I miss that cat. Trey's eye with the busted blood vessels looked worse. I started wondering whether the jump technology inside him would still charge and work if he died. I might need at least one more jump to gamble on a world more like the one I was from, a world with more than 2 people left in it. All right. Why did you spring that on me? I asked my semi-catatonic friend. Okay, why am I not getting a... Oh, it's spelled right, just not if I make it a compound word, so let's do it that way. Alright. Why did you spring that on me? I asked my semi-catatonic friend. I think it is going to have a dash, though, because it's a compound adjective for friend in this case. So the computer was just giving me trouble for no reason, I guess. I asked my semi-catatonic friend. He gave me another frustrated sigh. I considered that the opening for a conversation. Evelyn and Patrick knew about your obsession with that war, I said. There were hints, but they never came right out and said it. I guess they're not to be blamed. They had come from worlds that did not touch on that specific history. They had no touch point to it. There was no connotation. Everyone you encountered before me just thought you wanted to reverse the outcome of a war with 2 equal sides. 2 viable histories. They knew nothing of the meaning behind the Civil War or World War II. They didn't know what that made you for wanting a different outcome. Trey's head lolled again as he leaned on the couch with Trey's head lolled again as he leaned on the couch with his hands still cuffed behind his back. He brought his head mostly upright again on his own. A spot of drool escaped the other corner of his mouth, but stopped short of dripping away. I didn't let him off the hook just for being out of it. They didn't warn me about you because they had no reference to understand that I needed to be warned. Now we're here. Wherever here is, it's a place where people are scarce or gone. It appears supplies and resources are gone with them. I don't know what that means. I don't know when or if ever we will be able to jump to another world. I hate to say on mute. Am I muted? I can see my sound. On mute, trying to find writers to stream with. I don't think I'm muted. I can see my sound going. I hope I'm not muted. I'll have to go back and listen to it. I'm almost done either way. I know now, I don't know when or if ever we will be able to jump to another. I hate to... what was I trying to say? It appears supplies and resources are gone with them. I don't know what that means. I don't know when or if ever we'll be able to jump to another world. I hate... I don't know what I was going to say there. Let me get back where I was going. Don't know when or if ever we will be able to jump to another. I would hate to stay... Okay, here we are. I remember what I was going to say. I would hate to say a better world, because that's tempting fate. I stared at him and he took a deep breath but failed, but didn't give a sigh this time. Trey? Why would you go to all the trouble to travel worlds looking for one like that? Looking for one like that. Why, Trey? Why would you go to all the trouble to travel? Why, Trey? Why would you go to all the trouble to travel the world between worlds? Looking for one like that. Trey blinked a few times. He grunted once. And then said, sorry. Alright. So I'm at 50,000 words. Obviously the novel is not done, but I've met my nano goal. Alright, so we're at chapter 28. Still the same world. Okay. Chapter 28. Thanks. Control V. Alright, now, being at 50,000 words that means I'm going to need to come back to this. I'm not sure if that's going to be November or if I'm going to set it aside to catch up on some other work and then come back to it again, possibly go back through it and kind of clean up a little bit of the story so I have a little bit of a better idea how to finish it off. I'm definitely more than halfway done. I don't see this being 80,000 words, but I could probably finish it in maybe 60, 65. I don't think 60 is out of the realm of possibility from where we are right now. And I kind of have a couple ideas of where I could end it, but there's some stuff to clear up first. So happy about that. Let's take a look at word counts. So we jump over to my nano. I was at 47,552. My current word count is 50,056. So let me put that in. We'll do that real quick. 50,056. You're not supposed to say and. I used to teach middle school. We always were supposed to tell the kids not to put and between their numbers, but I guess there's no rules when you're an adult. So there we go. I have my little badges. I'm not going to get my 21 streak unless I just decide to sit down and write tomorrow and update again. Let's take a look at some of the other buddies. Even though I'm probably not going to do much more nano writing this month, I'll probably still check in on my friends and do little videos to give them credit for when they hit 50,000. So give them the encouragement they need. So let's look at our buddies. Jessica McHugh is moving right along. She is at 12,600 on her second novella. So over halfway done with the second novella. First one finished up at about 30,000. So she's really within a few thousand of hitting 50,000, but it's going to go well over. So good job, Jessica McHugh, and look forward to seeing how you finish up. All right, let's take a look at Armand Rosamelia. He made his count yesterday, and I believe he wrote again today. He's actually off celebrating his birthday in a quiet little place. The Devil's School is at 51,939. He said he expects to finish that up at about 65,000, and I believe he's pushing all the way through. Thank you, Valence, for help for jumping on the stream there. Appreciate your encouragement. The Devil's School, again, has a little bit more to go, but he hit his 50,000 a couple days ago. So looking back at Friends, let's take a look at John Quick. He hit his 50,000 a good while back and is still cruising along. Look at him there at 57,151. So he is probably going to finish that whole novel before the month's over, I'm sure. All right. Let's take a look at a couple other folks. All right, I don't want to jump in on people that are kind of at a stop, because again, I want to encourage them, but don't want to rub in where they've kind of stalled a little bit. Not that they've stopped, but they're probably not going to hit 50,000 this month. Alex from Iowa is doing great. He is at 30,127. So well within range of hitting the 50,000. In addition, he's been writing some short stories as well. So every once in a while you'll see that project flip where he has a smaller short story come up. So in addition to writing this whole novel, he's been writing a bunch of other things too. So he'll definitely hit 50,000 words, and I believe he'll knock out that 50,000 word goal on that particular novel as well. Again, whether or not people finish right at the end of the month isn't exactly what's most important, but it's always nice to get there. Okay, we have Tim Meyer, who's in the middle of Pteranodon Canyon. He's at 54,188. He hit his word count a few days ago and is finishing up that novel as well. I believe that one will come out with Severed Press. He's done a number of really cool monster books with them. A few more writers we will look at. I know Stephen Kozanowski already hit his word count goal. So like we showed before, he's already at 50,000. I don't think he's updated today, but I believe they're still going strong. All right, let's look at a couple more guys. Cody Langill, I'm not sure if he's updated today. I can't remember, but he's at 34,695. So well within hitting that 50,000 word goal for the end of the month. I expect him to make it. And then lastly, we will take a look at Todd Kiesling, a very accomplished writer and well on his way as well. He is at 41,787, so I'm not going to have any problem reaching 50,000 words by the end of the month. And I don't even know if he's updated today, so he may be further along on Spiders in the Lattice than all that. So very excited to be done with that, done being meeting the goal. But again, I'm probably going to set the novel aside for a little while, run back through it, kind of clean it up, fill out some places. Now that I kind of have an idea of where it's going, I can drop some foreshadowing early on, bring out a few more themes, build up a couple character things that I didn't quite do as much with as I needed to. And then when I get back to where I've left off, I should be in good shape to hit some climaxes on that novel and then be able to take it to a satisfying ending. So that's the goal anyway.